Hello, everybody.
You're gonna do it to me again, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, the reason is because I know many of you only watch our channel, and even though many are covering this governing body update number 1 for 2023, and Jane Doe has covered it, so we just thought we'd do a quick,
Yeah, it's just the same old regurgitated speech process. You're gonna hear them say that in 1999 the world conditions were bad, they were deteriorating, and we lowered the hourly requirement. They're using the same puzzle piece to justify lowering the hour requirement this day and age as the world continues to deteriorate. No, it's your organization that is continuing to deteriorate.
Yeah. Well, I think they are actually losing pioneers. A lot of pioneers waking up, so...
Well, before we give off full dialogue, do we want to watch a clip first?
You're suggesting to watch a clip?
Do I have a choice?
No.
That's what I thought.
Oh, and this is not a green screen.
Right.
So here's the clip.
We're happy to update you on this case. On December 22, 2022, the authorities announced their decision to deregister Jehovah's Witnesses as a religious community in Norway. Then, on December 28, we filed an injunction application with the Oslo District Court, asking them to suspend the deregistration until the matter had been resolved by the court. On December 30th, the court granted a temporary injunction. We're very grateful to the Oslo District Court for granting this injunction.
Now, I thought this clip was funny, and a lot of other videos we've watched haven't actually covered this little clip, this portion of it. Because, as you know, we got phone calls and emails and stuff, people upset, and even on Twitter they were upset because they thought that Watchtower had stopped the government from deregistering them. And it's like, no. If you listen carefully to what he said this is a temporary injunction that the Oslo, Norway District Court has given them until they fight it out in court.
But you know what I heard coming out of his mouth? A big old fat butt going. I mean, just look at his facial gestures. They're so happy that the government gave him a temporary. He's doing nothing but kissing their ass right now.
I know.
It's disgusting what these men do. I mean, I don't know if we're going to play it or not, but in this same JW broadcast, you have reading this letter, we wish to thank you, brothers, for yada, 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 blah, blah, blah.
Dear brothers, on behalf of the Warwick Bethel family, the governing body would like to express deep appreciation for our lovely new home here at Warwick Bethel. How we love our new residences and offices. The fresh air, quiet environment, and beautiful scenery are already having a beneficial effect on how we feel. We are confident that now, with Jehovah's blessing and help, we will be able to work even harder and accomplish even more in behalf of kingdom interests.
As was the case for the Warwick Project, thousands of volunteers from the United States will be needed for Ramapo. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for offering yourselves willingly, for your heartfelt prayers, and for your generous donations in behalf of the Ramapo Project.
For our gracious living conditions here in Warwick.
So peaceful.
Yeah, you know what I saw? When I actually saw that man reading that, You know what vision popped into my head? Kenneth Copeland praising Jesus for all the jet planes he's got so they can go and accomplish their work.
The world is in such a shape, we can't get there without this.
That's right.
We've got to have this. We would have, the mess that the airlines are in today, I would have to stop. I'm being very conservative. At least 75 to 80, more like 90% of what we're doing, because you can't get there from here.
It's impossible.
So and this was such a good illustration. I just the Lord impressed me. That's why we're on that airplane. We can talk to God.
Glory to God.
It's true. It's when I was flying for Oral Roberts, the Brother Deweese, my boss on the airplane, he said, "Now, Kenneth, this is sanctuary. It protects the anointing on Brother Roberts." And he said, "You keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to him unless he talks. Because when he's on a meeting, he doesn't talk to anybody but God." Now, Oral used to fly airlines.
Right.
But even back there then, man, it got to the place where it was agitating his spirit.
Sure.
People coming up to him. He had become famous, and they wanting him to pray for him and all that. You can't manage that today.
Right.
This dope-filled world.
Right.
And get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right.
It's no different than those monkeys' asses every Sunday morning listening to their Jesus stuff on stage. It's the same thing.
You know what I heard?
What did you hear?
I heard, we are going to thank all of you and kiss all of your behinds to the members, the volunteers, the slaves, because if it wasn't for you slaves, we wouldn't have been able to do this. They forget to mention that they actually hired a professional contractor to finish Warwick. But what I hear is, we now need help and volunteers for Ramapo, so come back, slaves. Pharaoh going after his slaves and try to capture them again.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff, really, this is really redundant at this point, isn't it? Because these guys...
But it's fun.
I know it's fun, but it's so predictable. These guys have got nothing new, and yet my poor mother, your mother, and your brother is going to swallow it like, oh, look, Jehovah's blessing us. Hey, we have a governing body. Thank you, Jehovah, because I'm too stupid to figure this shit out myself.
Well, I know what my mom is thinking. She's thinking, oh, I need to try to scrape together an extra $20 to give them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can't go volunteer and help them work, but I can help by donating hard-earned, my Social Security pension.
It's the same tune. Speaking of tune, you know what I'm thinking about doing?
Oh,
Singing another little diddly.
Oh, no.
Singing another little diddly, because I really like the opening that Ryan, Cult-tastic, has put. She's got Let doing all of these twisting noises and everything else in one of her openings. And you know what I thought about putting at that spot right there? Playing that song, putting on the Ritz. And at that moment, when the one that Mel Brooks did with Gene Wilder, and at that one moment, that Frankenstein monster goes, "Play the Ritz!" I'd rather have that coming out of Let's mouth, because that's all these guys are doing. They're putting on the Ritz. They're morons.
Especially when you look at all of the bling that is on this guy. In fact, I'm seeing a ring on his left hand, and I don't know if he's married yet. Can't tell if there's a wedding ring there or not. But I mean, I know he was engaged when he was appointed years ago. So who knows?
That's a 50-year-old virgin is what I see right here.
You heard that in someone else's video.
Oh,
I know.
of course. Thank you. Yeah, I actually stole that.
Yes. So we have another clip here, and this is a little bit longer because this is their fantastic announcement, a blessing from Jehovah.
Jehovah is pouring his blessings.
If Jehovah was pouring your blessings, he would help you and your pioneers to get the money and assets they need to keep on doing the preaching work. Obviously, your God Jehovah isn't helping you.
Obviously.
But we'll play the clip.
Recently, it was announced that regular pioneers will once again have an hour requirement, effective March 1st, 2023. Pioneers are now busy looking at their schedules and planning how they'll be able to meet the hour requirement. The governing body, though, is realistic about the world situation. Many branches have reported that pioneers are struggling to meet their hour goal because of the rising cost of living, and many are contending with natural disasters, unrest, and war. In 1999, the governing body considered the situation of the pioneers. The January 1999 Kingdom Ministry said, "We have observed the mounting difficulties faced by pioneers, especially with regard to finding part-time secular work that will allow them to care adequately for their personal needs so as to remain in the full-time service. The present economic situation in many lands has also made it increasingly difficult for others to enter the pioneer work, even though that is their heartfelt desire. During recent months, these and other factors have been carefully considered." Because of those factors, the governing body decided back in 1999 to adjust the hour requirements for the pioneers. Now, 24 years later, as world conditions continue to deteriorate, the governing body sees that our pioneers are facing similar challenges. Therefore, we are very pleased to announce that the governing body has decided to adjust the hour requirements for pioneers effective March 1st, 2023. You may want to get a pen or something to write this down. Are you ready? Here are the new requirements. For regular pioneers, the requirement will now be 600 hours per year. That is an average of 50 hours per month. For auxiliary pioneers, the requirement will now be 30 hours. But notice this. This is very exciting. During March and April, and during the month of the Circuit Overseer's visit, publishers can choose to auxiliary pioneer with a reduced hour requirement of 15 hours. This should make it possible for many more of us to share as auxiliary pioneers during those months of special activity. What about special pioneers and missionaries? They will now have an hour requirement of 100 hours per month. Sisters who are serving as special pioneers or missionaries and who are 40 years of age or older have a reduced hour requirement of 90 hours. How should we view these adjustments?
Now, I just want to mention one thing, how they admit that pioneers are having a difficult time and they need to lower their hours, and they're having a hard time making a living, and it's rough. It is rough with the economy right now and what you have to pay for gas. I don't know how pioneers would do it unless you've got mega bucks, because it's just unbelievable.
Well, you know what I hear in all of this?
What?
What I hear is there's so many PMOs. They're bleeding members at an unprecedented rate. There's no help from the congregation with these to help these pioneers get their hours. And I'll even tell you, friends, when I pioneered and was, required to get 90 hours a month, there was days when I would go and open up the Kingdom Hall, wait for one or two brothers and sisters to show up, and nobody would show up to support me. That's when Watchtower really had a support group. You know, when they could really claim there's 8 million Jehovah's around the world. They can't do that now. Because I guarantee you, there's not going to be hardly any PMOs going out to support a pioneer. But I also hear something else too. Now let me just kind of qualify this. When we moved from Arizona to Wisconsin, I got very well acquainted with another brother, Jehovah Witness, and his name was Dan. And Dan was serving as an elder. He got removed because of Brother Viagra tie and some nonsense regarding one of his daughters sleeping around. Basically, well, if you can't keep your family under control, how can you, help keep Jehovah's organization, or at least that Kingdom Hall, clean? So he stepped down.
Oh, was that cop that...
That later become a brother?
Yeah, that was... And I mean, he was, 40, and he's dating his 17-year-old daughter?
Shh. We ain't going to mention that. This is not part of what we're talking about, even though it is.
I digress. I apologize.
Yeah, we apologize for that. So, anyhow, Dan and I were out in service one day, and he wanted so bad to reach out again to be, an elder. And in that vehicle, I said, well, Dan, what you need to do is you need to tie the hands of the body of elders. And he says, tie their hands? I've never heard of that. I says, become a regular pioneer once again. And the Jim did I just spout out here? Brother Viagra tie will have no choice but to make the recommendation. Now, what I see here is because we know that they bled members, they're still bleeding members. We know that there is a huge body of PMOs that are not going to support this idea of pioneering for 50 hours a month for a regular pioneer. What I see is Watchtower appointing these elders at only 50 hours a month. That's what I see. They're going to use that to gain elders at that point.
Even if they're 20 years old?
Even if they're 20 years. So now you're a 20-year-old Jehovah Witness. Start pioneering at 50 hours a month, and I guarantee you within a year you will either become a ministerial servant or an elder. Mark my words, because I know how this flipping game plays with these idiots. Because I played it myself. Because that's how I became a ministerial servant. Because there were elders in Cottonwood that didn't want me to become an elder or ministerial servant. But I started regular pioneering in 6 months. That announcement was, Brother Brooks is now a ministerial servant.
Well, I got a couple of things to share about that. Is, like I mentioned, if Jehovah is helping all of these pioneers in the organization, and if this was such a vital work, you'd think he would help the pioneers more. He had to come off the list in 94, if I remember right.
Yeah, 94, 95,
because
yeah.
it was so hard financially, and we were struggling. I was working full-time, 50, 60 hours a week, and of course, what I was doing wasn't good enough. I had lost my joy and wasn't commenting and going out in service as much as they thought I could. But that's another whole story that we've said many times. So he had to come off the list because of financial reasons. But, I was just thinking when you were mentioning that, think about that. You were pioneering 93, 94.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they changed it in 99. So obviously that tells me he wasn't the only pioneer that had to come off the list in the later 90s, middle to later 90s.
Very true. Hey, that's observable of you, Sister Brooks.
Thank
Very
you.
observable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can think these things out.
Oh, you mean you're not going to apply the sister rule and sit down, shut up,
No.
and know your role?
No. That's why I was always in trouble, because I could never keep my mouth shut. And another thing I thought of is there's so many PMOs in the organization right now, and I know of many who have messaged us, emailed us, called us, and said, I was a regular pioneer. I've come off the list. I am living my life and, not doing as much as the organization wants me to. I'm tired of being their slave. So how many PMOs who are regular pioneers have come off the list?
Because they've woken up.
Yeah, I
Because
know
they've
of
woken
a
up.
couple of missionaries years ago that were in a foreign country, and they came home, and when they came home, guess what? They were awake, and they were PMOs, and they were able to get a lot of their family to come out with them.
Yeah.
So they're losing missionaries too.
Yeah. Well, see, and there again, the whole dynamics of this is simple. The 1914 Jehovah business model crashed and burned. They tried to give it a little bit of longevity with the overlapping generation nonsense. That didn't work. And now they're trying to support it with the Jehovah business model, and they're going online because by far and large the whole Jesus movement today is moving from the brick and mortar buildings to the online thing. And they're gonna, and when you look at these mega churches, they don't need 100,000 little churches. All they need is one big church, mega church, fill it, and then broadcast it, and everybody sits at home any given Sunday morning, or even any given day at this point. Just go to your upper bands, go to the Trinity Broadcasting Network, and you can listen to this stuff all day long. And they have their own broadcasting satellites. I mean, there's even one of these churches here in Albuquerque. You drive by the church, which is almost kitty corner from a Kingdom Hall, but they've got these big broadcasting satellites. I very much look for Watchtower to move into that world, because that's all they need now. They've already got the stage. They've already got the brothers to do, all of their, background networking BS. They've already got a stage full of brothers and sisters willing to sit down and give their experiences. This is going to be nothing but a week-long assembly for these people, and they can tune it in anytime they want. And if they miss a particular program, we'll just wait for it, friends. It'll be on reruns.
Well, isn't that what JW Broadcasting were? But I will say one thing. I don't think most of these governing bodies, guys, could jump up and down on the stage hollering amen with the Bible in one hand. I don't think he can jump.
Too many donuts? Too many chocolate glazed donuts?
Well, him and Aunt Mo and some of them, they can barely walk.
Well,
I'm not going to fat shame.
It's a good thing they have sisters that know how to tailor suits for them. Oh wait, is tailor the right word to use for sisters, or is the tailor's the only word that's
seamstress
in conjunction with a man sewer? Hey, and guess what, guys? I can get away with that because I do mountain man rendezvous, and for 30 plus years I've been tailoring my own clothes. Seamstress, so I can get away with that.
Well, I'm sure they buy designer suits, but I'm just saying they're going to have to get younger, skinnier governing body if they want to have the amen jumping all over the stage.
That's what they're going to have to present. And if you look at some of the other broadcasting, they've already got the men willing to fill that role.
Yeah, the governing body assistants.
The governing body assistants. They're much better looking, and they present themselves more business-like.
Right? Now, before we go, we wanted to thank Matt Christopher for the shout-out very much. Thank you for adding your voice to the community.
Yes. And just to let your friends know, I did a video a couple nights ago in front of the green screen. We just haven't had time to edit it and work it all
Well, that's
together.
why I
'Cause
wanted to thank him now.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, because I don't know how long it's going to be before that is up.
Yeah.
So I'll just edit it out of that video. But thank you, Matt. We appreciate it. And if I'll put a link to his channel down below for those of you who don't know who he is. He's been on fire lately and doing some great videos. And he's also the one that was kind enough to give us information a couple of years ago on the Australian neutrality, the Australian branch neutrality issue that they were having during World War II.
World War II, absolutely.
Yeah. So, he's got some great information.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'll put the link.
Weren't they involved in making uniforms?
Oh, they were involved in all kinds of things.
Of stuff, yeah.
Businesses and doing all kinds of things for the war effort. And, maybe I'll put the link down below to those also.
Yeah, because it's good for Jehovah's Witnesses to be able to compare that these guys are just still talking garbage. I mean, when you look at what they did in 1999 to justify lowering the hours from 90 to 70, and they're using that same puzzle piece today. And quite honestly, things really haven't gotten any worse from the perspective that the population of the earth has been expanding, the human population. So as the population expands, you're going to get that increase of violence and crime and everything else. So quite honestly, nothing has changed from 1999 until now, except their organization is deteriorating.
Well, I know one thing that the witnesses were all freaking about in 1999.
What's that?
Y2K.
Y2K, exactly.
Everybody was freaking out
Right.
about that because they didn't think the computers were smart enough to switch over to the year 2000 since it, would use 00, and they thought it was basically all the systems were going to crash.
We see how that worked out, huh?
Yeah. A lot of people were dreading New Year's Eve of 1999. And so, these guys were thinking, if the Y2K happens, crash, is that the start of the Great Tribulation? Yeah. That's one curse of being as old as you and I are, is because we have lived through the 1975 screwed generation, the Y2K, the 1986 year of international peace and security.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's, Matt, Christopher, if you're listening to this, let me add to this conversation. These guys are poisoning themselves, not poisoning, but posturing to play the long game. Because right now there's still enough of us that remember 75, remember how they felt in 1999, remember how they felt in the middle 80s when the United States was going to declare the UN. The UN was going to declare that as a year of peace and security, and Jehovah's Witnesses got all excited. Oh, Jehovah's surely going to bring Armageddon now, and nothing happened. And the biggest thing is that 1914 business model has crashed and burned. The only way these guys can make any type of longevity with their organization is us older folks have to be gone. All of this older literature has to be gone. But the problem, the thing that they can't get around right now is the stinking internet. Because even when I'm long dead and gone, a Jehovah's Witness can click on this video and see what we're all saying right now to be the absolute truth. So I don't think that these guys are really planning 50, 60 years in the future as long as the internet is still available, YouTube's still available, and all of us still have our voices perpetrating or, projecting our resolve to expose these idiots.
Well, we said years ago that they were going to have to reband their corporation.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're reinventing themselves, rebanding, and they're getting more involved all the time with the UN and politicians and governments and all of that. We see it.
And the thing is Jehovah's Witnesses decades ago would never dare to get outside of their watchtower symbology. You remember, you could drive by any kingdom hall in the world, and outside in the front lawn they'd have this beautiful brick mosaic with their watchtower in it, built in it with somehow, some way. They would never dare to go to a online logo like they're doing right now, JWs, because they absolutely hated being called a JW. Don't call me a JW, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. And now they're proud to wear the little square blue symbol that says I'm a JW. I mean, this is so easy. This is so easy to do because we remember those days.
Exactly. So, thank you everybody for watching, and we're still receiving cards. Thank you everybody so much. We appreciate it, and we hope you have a good week.
So long for now.
Bye.
Bye.